I want to talk to you about Soulmask, an open world survival game being developed for PC. Now, as many of you may know, this is my most anticipated game of 2024. I've had the opportunity to play a lot of the early betas, and I really enjoy everything that's in Soulmask. So let me bring you up to speed on the newest news, and I also have questions that I've asked the devs and they've responded, so I'm going to cover all that in this video as well. There's a lot to unpack, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Possibly the most exciting news are the dates for Soulmask. So starting right off, everyone will have the opportunity to try out Soulmask for free. That it's going to start on May 1st, 2024. And to get you in the mood for all the information that I have packed in this video, I'm going to play the most recent trailer from Soulmask. Hopefully you're as hyped as I am for Soulmask after watching the trailer. Now I want to go through the questions that I asked the dev team, and then after those questions I'm going to jump into their blog posts that they posted on Steam. Starting right off, my first question was multifaceted. So, are there any more plans for testing on Soulmask? How can I join? Will there be PvP and PvE tests, private servers during tests, released, and beyond? Their answer was, we have been testing consistently with our community through applications on our Discord. We have a public beta planned for May where everyone can join in and experience Soulmask for themselves before we officially launch to early access. Wishlist our game on Steam and join us for the beta on May 1st. And hey, when it launches, expect a buffet of server options, official, private, LAN, and private games. We're all about making sure you're cozy while you game. If you've been fortunate enough to be one of the chosen people to participate in any of these betas, I want to know what your experience with Soulmask is in the comments section below. My next question had to do with sound design for the game. I said the game's a bit quiet. Are there any plans to add noises for animal attacks like panthers? And what about adding footsteps for mounts? They said, yeah, we've definitely heard the feedback on the lack of sound effects. Don't worry, we're on it. Once we've finished up with these sound effects, the game will be much livelier, we promise. As for the whole footsteps idea, they're intrigued and they're planning on chatting about that in the future. If you've played Soulmask or watched somebody play Soulmask, you may have noticed that the dungeons feel very similar. So I asked if there was any plan to spice up the dungeons with more and varying types of enemies. Their response was absolutely, that's actually on the schedule right now. They can't list them all out because there's plenty of changes, but they'd be happy if I tried it out and give them some feedback once it's in, and I'm absolutely excited to check out these changes. My next question had to do with progression in the game. I have over 400 hours playing the different betas, and there were times where I felt stuck, where I didn't know what to do next. So I asked them how the game could guide me in completing the content I may not know exists. Their answer was that I was not alone and that others had given the same feedback. They're already working on it and they're tinkering with some adjustments like pop-up guidance to see how that helps. Now I've had a chance in some of the beta testing that I've been doing to see some of those changes, and I can tell you right up front, I really like the direction that they're going with those changes. Now, in all of the tests that I've been part of, there has been a cap to character level, and I wanted to know what the actual cap will be once we get the game in early access. What's the max level for your character, and can we achieve the higher proficiencies? In Soulmask, you have both main characters and then tribesmen that you can control. For main characters, the character max level is 60, and the proficiency level is capped at 50. So in order to exceed the proficiency cap, you will need to play as a tribesman. Now, since I cover a lot of Conan Exiles on my channel, players have asked if there will be nudity in Soulmask, and their answer is that currently there are no plans to add nudity to Soulmask. When you look at the servers list in the game, you'll notice that there's a map name listed next to that server. I asked, will there be more than one map available at launch? They said initially there will only be one map when Soulmask is released to early access. However, we are planning to introduce additional maps in the future, so keep an eye out for that. One of the things that I noticed while playing Soulmask was the tribes' different armors, and the fact that I wasn't able to actually craft those different armors, even though I really liked the look of them. So I asked if there'll be an option to make the armor to resemble the tribe armor in the future. They said, for sure, the developers took note of your feedback from the last content creator program, and they've already added this feature into the game. Expect to be able to craft them after a future update. Now, hopefully some of the questions that I chose answered some of the questions that you might have already had. If they didn't and you still have questions, go ahead and leave those in the comment section below, and I'll see if I can get with the devs for another round of answers. Now let's jump over to Steam and see what they've been talking about over the last couple of weeks. You already know that there's a planned open beta starting on May 1st, so that's your opportunity to jump in and check the game out for free. Then moving on from that, they plan on releasing Soulmask to early access sometime in early to mid-June. Now I understand that many people are wary about picking up games in early access. They want to see fully fledged out games prior to spending any money on them. What I can tell you from my experience with Soulmask is there is a lot to discover, and in the early access version, you're going to have at least 400 hours of gameplay available to you at that point in time. There are already a lot of very rich and in-depth systems in the game, and that doesn't even scratch the surface on what kind of things you can explore in the world and what kind of loot you can find. They hint to the fact that there are 10 masks that can be discovered in Soulmask, and each one of those carries their own special abilities. So it really allows you to find a new mask and go out and engage with all that content in a totally different way, because each mask is like its own class of gameplay style. Now, I'm not going to try to sell you on the game, that's not what I'm here for. What I will tell you is that once Soulmask comes to early access, it's going to be very hard for me to step away from this game and play anything else. Some of the things that they've been working on over the last couple of months have been in regards to the different barbarians and the different leaders of those barbarian tribes. The tribesmen now not only wear different armors, but they also adorn different war paints. So each different tribe has a different look, and that gives them a bit more of a unique feeling and a sense of accomplishment when you actually recruit these tribesmen. The leaders of the tribes, or boss encounters if you will, have had a revamp. Now, in the past, many of them felt like they were the same enemy because they used the same skill sets or the same moves. Now, from what I'm seeing in this post, it looks like they've given each one of them an identity, and that's going to be a unique fight in each one of these encounters. Jumping into the tribal management system, which was already an amazing system, they're adding even more to it. And I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on this because they have added the ability to really go into depth on what each one of your tribesmen is doing and manage their jobs and tasks from one screen. So that is a really nice feature, and I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on it. Now, they've added another bench, and I know a lot of you guys are going to be like, oh my gosh, another bench in a game that already has a lot of benches. But this is an absolutely amazing feature. They've made a repair bench where all you have to do is deposit the items that have low durability into this bench. Your tribesmen are then going to go and retrieve the resources for this to be repaired and repair it all in that same bench. So you no longer have to visit multiple benches to get your repairs done. You can do it all in this single bench. And this is an amazing feature that's going to save you a ton of time over the course of your playthrough. More realistic tribesmen. Now, some of you may not be as familiar with Soulmask as I am, so I'm going to give you a bit of context with this. You are able to store a certain number of tribesmen to be resurrected if they die, essentially cloning their bodies and bringing them back to life. Now, when you do this, your other tribesmen are going to celebrate the fact that you brought them back. And this really is a nice way to add immersion to the game and make the tribe feel like they're invested in your journey. In early testing, combat was a pain point for myself and many others, and they've taken that feedback and refined combat not only from a standpoint of character control, but also from a standpoint of the NPCs and their attack patterns. Much of what we see on the Steam page and this post has to do with the new character player interactions with the different combo sets and different weapons. However, combat has received a look across the entire board, and I can tell you that I enjoy the combat in the later versions of Soulmask much more than I did the previous versions. If you thought that Soulmask was dangerous already, watch out, it's gotten even more terrifying. They're adding new monsters to the game, like the Anaconda. Unlike the Panther, they advise not to turn your back on this creature. However, they say that hit and run tactics or taking it on from a distance with long range weapons is a good way to deal with it. But for beginners, their advice is to run. And I absolutely love when games put this in there and tell the new players just to run away from certain interactions, because it shows just how deadly the game can actually be. They've also added arrow poison frogs. Now, these are basically poison dart frogs for anybody that's familiar. They're obviously much larger in game than they are in real life, but these deadly little guys will spit poison at you as you approach them, so you're gonna have to figure out a way to handle that poison. And they go on to talk about the rich ecosystem and the other creatures that they've been adding into the game. They haven't shared what those are yet, but I have seen some of them and they can be quite terrifying. All in all, with the things that they've shared and my experience playing, I'm really excited for everyone to get their hands on this come May 1st and give it a try. Additionally, once it hits early access, I've already got some guides put aside that I'm ready to produce, and I will give you my full review once it launches. I'd like to thank all my YouTube members for your continued support. Y'all are absolute legends. Don't be out of whack. There's another video on the screen right now that you can click to watch more of my content.